What is the craziest thing you have ever woken up to from a night of partying? I woke up in a blanket fort on the floor of my friend's dorm room on my mattress that I apparently dragged up 2 floors. Need to build blanket fort. In college, I ended up crashing on a couch in a house I was unfamiliar with. When I woke up, I saw some dude standing on the other side of the dimly lit room. I said, "Oh man, what a crazy night. Thanks for letting me crash on your couch. We'll have to do this again." Yada yada yada. I went on like this for 10 minutes. Turns out I was talking to an oscillating fan with a hat on it. Not earth shattering, but when I was about 20 I was living in a party house. Plenty of long loud nights and headache mornings. Lots of strangers crashing. No big deal. But one morning I woke up and headed into the living room and noticed one of my roomies asleep on the couch in a sitting position. In one hand he had a fully cooked, now cold, pork chop. In the other hand he had a salt shaker. I shook him awake and he roused. He looked bleary-eyed around the room and then he looked down at his hands. Very slowly, he sprinkled some salt on his pork chop and started eating it. That's breakfast in a party house. My friend passed out on the couch while the party was still going on. He woke up to go to the bathroom. He walked into the kitchen, opened the dishwasher, and proceeded to pee over all of our clean dishes. When we yelled at him to stop, he slowly looked up, mid-pee, and said just let it happen. I once went to the pub for a cheeky pint, woke up 8 miles away in a completely trashed house. I came to on a sofa bed with around 20 people slumped all over the room. I sat up and a dude the other side of the room looked me in the eye, laughed and said, "You're crazy man." No one at the party knew who I was before or how I got there and neither do I. Still see them sometimes. Once I woke up the morning after a party in South Philly and went out back for a cigarette. When I was back there I heard some rustling around in the garbage behind this fence. I peeked over to see an old man rolling around in it with a beer in hand. A boy emerged from the house next door and yelled, "Grandpa, get out of the garbage." The old man then replied, "You get out of the garbage," and continued his trash game. Sounds like you partied with Frank Reynolds. I woke up halfway in the refrigerator. My friend said I got hot. Cleared out the bottom shelf and stuck half my body in there. Good times. Holy crap, I've done the same thing. I was using a 6-foot hoagie for a pillow. I woke up hiding in the bushes outside the barracks. I was wearing a gill suit I had made, so I can only assume I was the ultimate winner of a hide and seek game. A naked, passed out girl who was not there when I went to sleep. Nothing happened, but she perioded all over my bedsheets. That started off looking like a happy story. I live in Tennessee, but I took a bunch of pills one afternoon and by the time they wore off the next day I was on an island close to Savannah, GA. Turns out my GF and I met up with her boss and his friends that afternoon at a restaurant and drank a few bottles of wine. He was a pilot that had his own, relatively, small plane and a place on Tybee. I found out that next day that we drank more and more wine, and I don't even like wine, until we decided to take a weekend trip there. The worst part was that I had agreed to help pay for the fuel and food, which ended up costing well over $1,000. When I woke up, though, I thought I had driven all the way down there, which was scary until I learned that I had actually flown there with a drunk pilot. You would think the drunk pilot thing would have been scarier. After a night of drinking, I passed out on the blow-up mattress on the floor. My blacked out best friend woke up around 4 or 5 AM to pee and he unknowingly stands over me and pisses all over me. I was not too happy. He doesn't remember anything. One of my friends used to black out and pee on things. He once peed on my bed whilst my sir was with me, and when I shook him to snap him out of it, he shouted at me, "Dude, stop looking at my pecker, you prick." Then he proceeded to head downstairs and pee in his shoes by the front door. The morning after he walked into town barefoot to buy new shoes. Mad bastard. I woke up under a pile of expensive coats in the lobby of a UN-owned penthouse in Vienna. A friend of mine was sleeping on the lobby couch, spooning what appeared to be the door from the men's room. There was nobody else in that penthouse. Him and that door had a wild night together. I woke up in solitary confinement after a huge blackout while partying. I thought I was kidnapped and punched and kicked the door for over an hour until a guard finally came to calm me down. My fists were so swollen I couldn't even come close to closing a fist for about a week after. That first hour was absolutely terrifying. I don't drink anymore. Started drinking in London. Woke up on a building site in Tampere, Finland. One time I woke up with a bouquet of flowers tied to my penis while in the middle of my dorm hallway. Probably not as weird or crazy as these other stories, but it was pretty weird for me. Mazel tov. I woke up alone in my own bed after a night out wearing nothing but a leather jacket, an army helmet and with a pocket full of shotgun shells, none of which belonged to me. And that's all I remembered about Nam. A ditch. Apparently, I thought it was a good place to sleep because I was too drunk to make it back to my dorm after a party in college. Props to that other girl. Chillest reaction ever. Woke up next to a girl with her back to me in my bed. I went back to bed. When I woke up, my roommate asked me about the black midget she saw scamper out of my room. I had sex with a black midget. Scamper, I'm dying. When I was stationed in Korea, I wound up drinking with some of the guys in my platoon. We started with just Bud Light, then moved to Jack, and finally one of the Korean guys attached to us brought out the soju. We drank way too much soju. It was awesome. Anyways, there's about an 8-hour gap I can't account for, but I do know that 3 of my buddies and I woke up inside my tank in the motor pool. I'm extremely glad the dang thing wasn't running when we woke up. You woke up drunk in a tank. You win the internet for today, my friend. I had broken one of our windows and half of my room was covered in white powder due to my neighbor spraying a CO2 bottle under my door since he thought that my room was on fire, which it wasn't. He had also puked in all of our showers and sinks. All of them. This hot girl I was friends with threw a small party with a dozen or so friends since her parents were out of town and everyone got exceptionally S-faced. The parents were coming home early in the morning, so she asked everyone to leave at about 2 AM. It was thought I had caught a ride with another friend, but no, I was passed out cold in her parents' walk-in closet after throwing up in their bathroom. I wake up, realize where I'm at, freak out, and stumble out into the kitchen where her and her parents are having a nice brunch. Everyone was shocked, and I looked crazy. This was how I met my future wife's parents. Please tell me this is true. I want to believe you're married to hot girl. Woke up next to another girl I didn't know in a place I didn't recognize. She was just staring through me and gently rocking back and forth and didn't respond to anything whatsoever. Creepiest crap I've ever seen so far. That sounds like some bad crap happened to her. Broken metacarpal from improperly punching a wall. Naked people scattered around my house. Trash cans. Safety blockade signs in the living room. Traffic cones. So many random things have happened over the years. Another weird one was when my sister and her boyfriend had come back from the bar to my house with a few friends. Well, they brought this random chick that they never knew before that night to my place. She ended up passing out right in the living room face first on the floor. I wasn't going to boot her out because she was just so fricked up from drinking and or whatever else she did that night. Fast forward 8 hours. I wake up around 9:30 am. The girl is gone. Front door wide open. And a huge pee puddle outlined her lower body on my floor. Poor girl pee herself. I wasn't even mad because I could only imagine how she felt and how embarrassed she was when she awoke. TL. DR. Random chick passed out on my living room floor and pee herself. I'm hoping she comments on this post somewhere. I woke up on the living room floor of some stranger's house. In a puddle of my own pee. I snuck out before any of them noticed. Still no idea how I got there. Maybe late, but after a particularly wild party in our college suite, every piece of furniture was somehow squeezed into my room, essentially trapping me in my bed. Horrific fire hazard, but I was impressed they were able to stuff a full-sized couch, love seat, 3 dressers and 4 chairs into my tiny room which already had my furniture in it without waking me up. Good times. My roommate's new GF naked in my bed. I thought it was her twin sister, so I was like, score until she woke up and freaked. Fortunately, unfortunately, nothing had happened. Apparently she got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and since it was her first night sleeping over, she got confused about which room was which. I woke up in a stranger's house after drinking a box of wine to find my shoe filled to the brim with vomit. Me and another guy were sleeping on an L-shaped couch but on opposite ends. Neither of us remember who puked. I threw those shoes out the car window on Main Street at 10 AM the next morning. Another time I woke up with one arm and one leg hanging off a deck over a lake. I've woken up completely naked with a female friend. Neither of us knew what happened till we found the jizz-stained boxes on the lamp. One time I woke up in a disgusting abandoned trailer with a backpack full of lawn gnomes and an extra $20 in my pocket. Alcoholism makes for some decent stories. College. Day after this big school festival where everyone drinks a shitload. I woke up with a girl in either arm. One my girlfriend at the time and the other her cute best friend. All of us in just underwear bottoms. Both of their hair was just splayed over my chest and all entangled with each other's. Smelled incredible. I sat up a bit and my knees hurt. Pulled the sheets back and ripped dried blood skin off my knees. There was beer and weed stuck to my bloody legs and a half-smoked blunt under my pillow. That was a really good night. Apparently I was jumping from roof to roof and fricked up at one point and tore my knees up. Then got weed and beer in the wounds and made out with 2 women. As a commuter student, I will never experience this joy. I blacked out and installed my window AC and woke up in a freezing room with the last 5 seconds of Auld Lang Syne skipping on the record player. It was now the 5th of July. This reads like a diary entry. I really like to imagine that you passed out on the 31st of December. I once woke up in an abandoned building. Windows were boarded up. It was almost pitch black, and the flooring was cold concrete. My first thought that I was kidnapped from the club I was at. Woken up by a housemate after massive party we'd put on. There's some people downstairs. Walked downstairs into what can only be described as an intervention by the neighbors of about 8 surrounding houses. We need to have a word about last night. We've lived here for 35 years, and we've had parties. This is a uni city after all. But never, and I mean never, have we heard anything like that. And they each took it in turn to explain how we'd ruined their night. We hadn't tied it up yet, so they were sat amongst the fallout, including the 2 8-foot tall speakers, 5 decks, 3 mixers and a bunch of other equipment. And that was just what was on the downstairs floor. On the plus side, as one neighbor was walking out he did turn around to mention how impressed he was with all the equipment. On the downside, someone poured beer on the router that night and broke it. People can be buttholes during parties when they don't live there. I remember one time I was at a friend's party and some guys who nobody seemed to know actually broke his balcony. As in, the bottom of it fell onto the deck below. The next morning all the booze and his Xbox had been stolen. We assume it was them. Halloween. A few people were dressed as Jedi Knights and I passed out holding one of their lightsabers. I remember waking up in the middle of the night at the same time as one of them, suddenly breaking into a full-on lightsaber duel, then passing out again 5 minutes later. Define lightsaber. It may not be what I'm thinking. Posted this before but I went to take my beer crap the morning after my sorority had its Christmas party my senior year and I heard noise coming from the bathtub. I thought my roommate had fallen asleep there again but found a brown, black, and white guinea pig in our bathtub with a necklace around its neck that said feed me. It was also wearing a little handmade paper crown. No one would own up to bringing it or knowing who brought it. It now lives in my friend's classroom. She is a teacher. One morning I awoke to my little old grandma screaming at me. At first I had no idea what she was talking about because I was so hungover, but after a few seconds, I realized she was pissed at me for throwing a huge party at my dad's house. She spent a good 5 minutes laying into me. For good reason. It was a butthole thing to do. But seriously, nothing can prepare you for being screamed at by your little old loving grandmother after that much alcohol and that little sleep. The funny part, however, came about 10 seconds after she walked out of my room. I had just enough time to bury my face in my hands and say, Jesus freaking Christ, before a cute little blonde girl threw the covers off her face and asked me who the frick that was. which scared the crap out of me because I'd forgotten about her entirely. I hope my grandma didn't see her hair coming out of the covers at least. Very Irish Catholic. Went over to my friend's house for a few beers. Todd waves me over into his room. Turns out he got a bunch of Molly and is offering me some. I did a small line with him and licked the bag. After that, I remember opening a bottle of whiskey and having an animated conversation about tariff law with my buddy's insanely hot girlfriend. Wake up the next morning back at my place, but naked in my bare mattress. There's a girl I've never met before sleeping soundly next to me, wearing only a bra. The light is on. The window is open. It's 11 AM and I feel like gnomes are trying to tunnel out of my skull. My knee is bleeding and there's blood on the walls. The girl, whose name I never found out, eventually wakes up, finds her clothes and scampers. I found 7 condoms on the floor that morning. 7. One of them had some kind of black gunk on it, so I may have joined the anal club, but I don't think I deserve to be in it if I don't remember. I went out to breakfast and they officially christened me the goose that morning. Duck goose. There was always someone who was much more hungover at the diner the next day. Might have been blood on the condom. Vaginal blood can sometimes dry black. Naked in my bed with some stranger man next to me. I had hikeys in very inappropriate places. Snuck out of bedroom in skanky underwear to my living room kitchen only to find my best friend sleeping amongst more strange men. Instead of freaking out, I decided to just make breakfast. The smell of bacon woke everyone up. We all introduced ourselves again. None of us really remembered how we got to my place, what actually occurred, or why everyone was either naked, mostly naked. But we did end with a good morning of playing Super Mario on my Wii and eating bacon and eggs in my living room. When me and my best friend started cleaning after everyone left, we found empty pudding cups, a couple of empty bottles of booze and a few lost garments from the men. I would imagine it was a very good night. I am pretty sure everyone in the room probably saw me naked, but that's not too big of a deal since I am notorious for stripping when drunk. Funny thing was, when I went to my best friend's place later that day, she lived near a university. We bumped into one of the strange men. It turned out he lived across the street from her. They are still together. I like to think my living room may have had a hand in that. TLDR, my best friend and I hosted an orgy party which no one remembers. Woke up in my friend's living room wrapped up in a blanket like a burrito. Took the blanket off and to my surprise I was only in my boxers, which were covered in puke by the way, and had no clue where any of my clothes were. His whole family, including his little sister, were home. 4th of July in 05. My best friend lived across the street so we had kegs at my house and scorpion bowls at his. Woke up to an apartment full of passed out people. Empty kegs and cans everywhere. A toilet full of crap with an apology note floating in it. My front yard looked like someone put a grenade in a dumpster. And the roof of my car was burned. It was epic. I have posted this before, but after a long night of partying in college I took a girl home. What I woke up to I was in no way prepared for. While doing the deed I accidentally slipped out of the vagina and into the butt. She yelped. I apologized, as it was an accident, and we finished up sexy time. I guess I jarred something loose because, when I woke up, she had pooped herself and was lying on her stomach. It kind of looked like a brown mushroom coming out of her butt. I put a pillow on her butt. I don't really know why, and quietly creeped out of the dorm room as quietly as possible. Never told anyone at school. I just pictured this situation and the brown mushroom was pretty funny. When I was 15 I woke up on a beach with a KFC bucket on my head about a mile from where I was staying on my first holiday without my parents. This Christmas I woke up naked in our spare bed with a broken finger and no bank card. Went to see my brother cause I had this feeling I'd pee myself and it transpired that I'd pee on the carpet in my parents' room. I was only intending to have one drink. My friends and I rented a hotel room for someone's birthday. We could only afford one room so others would just have to sleep on the floor. I woke up at 4 AM only to notice my two friends having sex on the floor. I really want to get up and pee, but I had to hold it in until they finished moving. I don't know if others knew but I felt embarrassed for them that I didn't mention it to anyone the morning after. You should have got up, pretended that you had not noticed them. Then they would have to lie still and pretend to be asleep until you got back and were still. A few years back I lived in a pretty wild party house. All sorts of shenanigans took place there. One morning I woke up and saw blood all over my room. I look around and my boyfriend at the time has a bunch of TP wrapped around his head tapped with gorilla tape. This thing was dang near a turban. Turns out our tweaker roommate had shoved his head into the drum set in the basement. Another time while living at the same place I told everyone that I was going to go pick flowers after drinking pretty heavily. I later woke up 2 blocks from my house on someone's porch tucked onto the bottom shelf of their grill, where the propane tank would go, hidden under the cover. I woke up quite confused and tried to get into the house. Since we never locked our door I started pounding in the door trying to get in. When no one answered the door, which was odd considering about 20 people lived there, I tried to walk around to the back of the house, but alas there was a fence that blocked my way. We didn't have a fence. I call one of my roommates and told her to come unlock the door. She goes down, tells me it's not locked and I'm not out there. Eventually I figured out that I was at the wrong house and stumbled home. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.